Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of his ship and looked out at the stars. They were different here, far from Earth, far from any place humans had ever been before. The stars seemed to move in ways that made no sense. They formed patterns that looked almost like someone had arranged them on purpose. "Captain," said Dr. Lisa Crawford, his science officer. She was looking at her screens with a worried face. "The readings are getting stranger. These numbers don't match anything we know about space." Jake walked over to her station. The screen showed lines and graphs that twisted in impossible ways. Space itself seemed to be folded like paper. The energy readings were off the charts. "How long have we been traveling in this region?" Jake asked. 3 days now," said Commander Ryan Beck from his navigation post. "Ever since we crossed that invisible line out there, nothing makes sense anymore. My star maps are useless. The constellations keep changing." Jake looked around his bridge crew. 12 people had volunteered for this mission to explore beyond the edge of known space. They had been traveling for 18 months, going farther than any human had ever gone before. The ship Starbound Horizon was the most advanced vessel Earth had ever built. It was designed for long journeys into the unknown. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from her communications station. "Captain, I'm picking up something strange. It sounds like music, but it's coming from frequencies that shouldn't exist." "Play it," Jake said. The bridge filled with a sound that was both beautiful and impossible. It was like hearing the voices of stars singing together. The crew listened in silence. The music seemed to call to something deep inside them. "Sir," said Chief Engineer Pete Williams over the intercom from the engine room, "the ship's systems are running better than they should. Efficiency is up 20% and I can't explain why." Jake felt something he had never felt before. It was like a voice in his mind, but not his own thoughts. It was gentle and warm, but also ancient and powerful. The voice seemed to be calling his name from somewhere far away. For the past 3 nights, Jake had been having dreams. In these dreams, he stood at the edge of a vast ocean of stars. A voice would call to him across the distance, asking him to come closer. The voice belonged to someone who had been waiting for a very long time. "Captain," Dr. Crawford said, her voice shaking slightly. "Look at this." On the main screen, space itself seemed to ripple like water. Stars moved in slow circles, creating spirals of light that pulsed with their own rhythm. It was as if the universe was breathing. "Are we in danger?" asked Ryan. Jake studied the readings. Everything said they should be dead. The forces they were seeing should have torn their ship apart. But instead, they felt safer than ever. The ship hummed with new energy, and the crew felt strong and alert. "I don't think so," Jake said. "I think we're being protected." "Protected by what?" Lisa asked. Jake looked out at the impossible stars. "I don't know yet. But something wants us to keep going." Amy's station beeped with new signals. "Captain, the music is getting stronger. And there's something else. I'm getting what looks like a pattern hidden in the signals. It's almost like a map. A map to where? Deeper into this region. Something is guiding us." Jake made his decision. They had come this far to explore the unknown. Whatever was out there had the power to bend space itself, but it hadn't hurt them. If anything, it seemed to be helping them. "Set course following the signal pattern," he ordered, "but keep all sensors active. I want to know the moment anything changes." As the Starbound Horizon moved deeper into the strange region of space, the crew watched in amazement. Planets floated in perfect lines. Asteroids moved in complex dances around each other. Gas clouds swirled in colors that had no names. "It's beautiful," whispered Amy. "It's impossible," said Lisa. "None of this should exist. Gravity doesn't work this way. Physics doesn't work this way." "Maybe our physics are just incomplete," Jake suggested. "Maybe there are things in the universe we haven't learned yet." The voice in Jake's mind grew stronger. It was definitely female, and it carried the weight of ages. It spoke of waiting and watching. It spoke of hope and purpose. Most of all, it spoke of something important that was about to happen. "Captain," Ryan called out, "we're approaching something big. I don't know what it is." On the screen ahead of them, something took shape. It was massive beyond belief, but also strangely delicate. It looked like a structure made of light and energy, but solid enough to be real. Parts of it seemed to exist in normal space, while other parts flickered in and out of reality. The music from Amy's station grew louder and more complex. The patterns of energy around them pulsed in rhythm with the sounds. The very fabric of space seemed to be singing. "My God," Lisa breathed. "It's alive!" Jake felt the voice in his mind grow clearer. It was coming from the structure ahead of them. After eons of waiting, after watching countless species rise and fall, the voice had finally found what it was looking for. "Take us closer," Jake ordered. "Whatever happens next, humanity needs to see this." The starbound horizon moved forward into the light, carrying 12 humans toward a meeting that would change everything. Behind them, the normal universe continued on, unaware that at its very edge something wonderful and terrible was about to begin. The voice in Jake's mind whispered words of welcome and warning. The greatest test in human history was about to start. 3 days had passed since the starbound horizon entered the strange region of space. Captain Jake Morrison had barely slept. The voice in his mind was getting stronger, and the dreams were becoming more real than his waking hours. "Captain, you need to see this," called Dr. Lisa Crawford from her science station. Jake hurried over to look at her screens. The readings showed something that should not exist. Ahead of them was a structure so large it dwarfed entire star systems. But it was not just big. It was alive. "The energy patterns are like nothing we've ever seen," Lisa explained. "It's as if the structure exists in multiple dimensions at once. Parts of it are in our space, but other parts are somewhere else entirely." Commander Ryan Beck looked up from his navigation controls. "Captain, our instruments can't get a proper reading on its size. Every time I try to measure it, the numbers change. It's like it's growing and shrinking at the same time." The structure pulsed with light that seemed to come from within. It had no clear shape that human eyes could understand. Sometimes it looked like a massive space station. Other times it appeared to be a living creature floating in the void. Most often it seemed to be both at once. "Sir," said Lieutenant Amy Foster from Communications, "the music signals are coming directly from that thing. But there's more now. I'm getting what sounds like a voice trying to speak to us." Jake felt his heart race. The voice in his dreams was becoming real. "Put it on speakers," he ordered. The bridge filled with a sound that was both alien and familiar. It was clearly a voice, but not speaking any human language. Yet somehow Jake understood every word. "Welcome, travelers from the small blue world," the voice said. It was gentle but carried the weight of countless years. "I have been waiting for you for so very long." The crew stood frozen in amazement. First contact with an alien intelligence had always been a possibility, but nothing had prepared them for this. "I am called Celestia," the voice continued. "Though names are small things when you have lived as long as I have. I have watched your species grow from the first spark of fire to your journey among the stars." Jake found his voice. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the Earth vessel Starbound Horizon. Are you the one who's been calling to me?" "Yes, Jake Morrison. I have been calling to your kind for generations, waiting for you to develop the wisdom and strength to hear me. You are the first to make it this far." Dr. Crawford was frantically taking readings. "Captain, the energy emanating from that structure is affecting our ship, but not in a harmful way. It's actually improving our systems. Our engines are running at 130% efficiency." Chief Engineer Pete Williams's voice came over the intercom. "Captain, I don't understand what's happening down here. Every system on the ship is working better than it ever has. It's like something is helping us." "That would be me," Celestia said, and Jake could hear amusement in her ancient voice. "Your ship is well built, but it was not designed for this region of space. I am making small adjustments to help you survive here." "What are you?" Jake asked. "I am what your people might call a goddess, though that word is too simple. I am consciousness given form, shaped by the forces that create and destroy universes. I have guided the birth of galaxies and watched over the growth of countless species." The structure ahead of them pulsed brighter, and Jake could see that it was not a ship or a building. It was Celestia herself, somehow existing as both a being and a construct at the same time. "How long have you been watching us?" Jake asked. "Since your species first looked up at the night sky and wondered what was out there. I watched you discover fire, develop language, and build your first tools. I observed your wars and your peace, your failures and your triumphs." Lieutenant Foster looked up from her station. "Captain, I'm detecting other signals now. They're coming from all around us, but they're old, very old." "Those are the remnants of other species I have encountered," Celestia explained. "Over millions of years, many races have reached this level of technological development. Most found me too late in their evolution. Others were not ready for what I offer." "What do you offer?" Dr. Crawford asked. "Purpose beyond your wildest dreams," Celestia replied. "But first, let me show you why I have been waiting specifically for humanity." The space around them changed. Suddenly, the crew could see visions of Earth's history playing out before them. They watched early humans learning to work together to survive. They saw the development of art, science, and philosophy. They witnessed terrible wars, but also acts of incredible kindness and sacrifice. Every species develops differently, Celestia explained as the visions continued. Some become perfect logicians but lose their ability to feel compassion. Others become great warriors but forget how to create. Still others gain incredible knowledge but become so detached that they no longer value individual life. The visions showed other alien civilizations. Jake saw beings of pure energy, who had transcended physical form but become cold and distant. He watched a mechanical race that had achieved perfect efficiency, but lost all creativity. He observed a species of great builders who could reshape entire worlds but had forgotten why life was precious. Humanity is different, Celestia continued. You have something I have rarely seen. You grow and advance, but you keep your core values. Even as you reach for the stars, you remember to protect those who cannot protect themselves. Even as you gain power, you use it to build rather than destroy. Jake felt overwhelmed by what he was seeing. Why are you showing us this? Because I am old, Jake Morrison. I have carried a burden for longer than your son has existed. The universe itself is my responsibility, and I can no longer bear it alone. I need successors. I need a species worthy of the task, Commander Beck spoke up. What task? To shepherd the cosmos, Celestia said simply. To guide the birth of new worlds, to protect developing civilizations, and to ensure that life continues to grow and flourish throughout the universe. And when this universe grows old and dies, to carry its essence into the next one. The crew exchanged glances of amazement and terror. The scope of what Celestia was suggesting was beyond anything they had imagined. You're talking about making us gods, Jake said quietly. No, Celestia replied. I am talking about making you gardeners. The universe is a vast garden, and it needs tenders who care about every flower, every tree, every living thing that grows within it. Jake looked around at his crew. They were good people, brave and dedicated, but were they ready for this kind of responsibility? Why us, he asked. Why humans? Because in all my eons of existence, you are the first species I have encountered that consistently chooses to protect rather than conquer, to build rather than destroy, to unite rather than divide. Even your failures teach you wisdom. Even your conflicts make you stronger. The structure that was Celestia pulsed with warm light, and Jake felt a sense of peace wash over him. I do not ask for an answer now, she said, but know this. The time for choosing is coming. The universe needs shepherds, and you may be its last hope for finding worthy ones. Captain Jake Morrison could not sleep. For 2 days he had been thinking about Celestia's words. The idea that humanity might become shepherds of the universe seemed impossible. Yet here he was talking to a being who claimed to have guided galaxies. Captain, Dr. Lisa Crawford called from her station. Celestia is sending us new information. She wants to show us something. Jake walked to the main viewing screen. The space around them began to change. Stars moved and swirled, forming pictures that told a story spanning millions of years. Let me show you the truth of what I am. Celestia's voice filled the bridge. And what I am offering to your species. The first vision showed a universe much older than their own. In it, beings of incredible intelligence had reached the end of their existence. As their reality began to die, they made a choice. Instead of simply fading away, they combined their consciousness into a single being who could carry their wisdom into the next universe. That being became me, Celestia explained. I am not just one mind, but the collected knowledge and experience of an entire civilization. When my universe died, I helped birth this one. I have been its guardian ever since. Jake watched in amazement as the vision showed Celestia working across billions of years. She guided the formation of the first stars, helped planets find stable orbits, and gently nudged the development of life wherever it could take hold. But being a cosmic shepherd is not about control, Celestia continued. It is about patience, wisdom, and knowing when to help and when to let things develop naturally. The visions changed to show other species Celestia had encountered. The first were called the Zenthari. They had achieved perfect logical thinking but had lost all ability to feel emotion or show compassion. The Zenthari could solve any problem with pure logic, Celestia explained. They eliminated war, hunger, and disease from their worlds. But they also eliminated love, art, and hope. They became so focused on efficiency that they forgot why life was worth living. Jake saw the Zenthari worlds. Perfect cities with no laughter. Efficient systems with no joy. The people lived forever but had no dreams. I offered them the role of cosmic shepherds, Celestia said. But when they tried to help other species, they only made them efficient, not happy. They could not understand why any being would choose struggle over perfection. The next vision showed the Veltar Empire. These beings had become the greatest warriors in the galaxy. They could conquer entire star systems and had the discipline to follow any order. The Veltar understood strength and honor, Celestia continued. They protected the weak and defeated evil wherever they found it. But they could only think in terms of conquest. When they tried to help developing species, they imposed their own culture on them. They saved civilizations by destroying what made them unique. Jake watched Veltar fleets bringing order to chaotic worlds. But in doing so, they erased languages, traditions, and ways of thinking that could never be recovered. The final vision showed the Architect Collective. These beings could reshape reality itself with their thoughts. They built wonders that spanned galaxies and could create or destroy entire worlds with ease. The architects had the power of gods, Celestia said. They could solve any problem by simply changing the universe to make the problem disappear. But they became so far removed from individual life that they saw entire civilizations as nothing more than interesting patterns to rearrange. The vision showed architect creations, beautiful beyond description but cold and lifeless. They had the power to create anything, but no understanding of what was worth creating. Each species failed the test in their own way, Celestia explained. The Zenthari had wisdom but no heart. The Veltar had strength but no flexibility. The architects had power but no connection to life itself. Commander Ryan Beck spoke up. What makes you think we're different? The space around them filled with new visions, these ones of humanity. Jake watched his own species throughout history. He saw wars and cruelty, but also incredible acts of kindness. He watched humans fight against impossible odds to protect complete strangers. He saw them sacrifice their own comfort to help others grow and learn. You are different because you grow without losing what makes you human, Celestia said. You gain knowledge but keep your curiosity. You develop technology but remember your compassion. You become strong but use that strength to lift others up. Lieutenant Amy Foster looked up from her communication station. But we're not perfect. We make mistakes. We hurt each other. Yes, Celestia agreed. And that is exactly why you are worthy. Perfect beings cannot help imperfect ones grow. Only those who have struggled can guide others through their struggles. Only those who have made mistakes can help others learn from theirs. Dr. Crawford was studying her readings. Celestia, what exactly would this shepherding involve? What would we have to do? You would learn to guide the birth of new star systems, Celestia replied. You would help young civilizations overcome the challenges that destroy most species. You would protect developing worlds from cosmic disasters, and when species are ready, you would teach them to become shepherds themselves. The visions showed what this work looked like. Jake saw beings gently adjusting the orbit of a planet to prevent an ice age. He watched shepherds helping a young species develop technology without destroying their environment. He observed the careful work of guiding evolution without controlling it. It is not about ruling, Celestia emphasized. It is about nurturing. Like gardeners who help plants grow but do not force them to bloom. Chief Engineer Pete Williams' voice came over the intercom. Captain, she's showing me how our ship's engines work on a level I never understood before. The knowledge is incredible. That is just the beginning, Celestia said. The physics you know are like counting to 10 when mathematics goes to infinity. The technology you have is like using sticks when you could build with starlight itself. Jake felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. This was not something one person could choose for all of humanity. This decision cannot be mine alone, he said. All of humanity would be affected. They all deserve a voice in this choice. I understand, Celestia replied, and I respect that. It shows the wisdom I hope to find in your species. You think not just of yourselves, but of all your people. How would we even begin to prepare for something like this? Jake asked. Slowly, Celestia said. Carefully. With great patience and humility. The transformation would take generations. You would not become cosmic shepherds overnight. You would grow into the role as your understanding deepened and your wisdom increased. The structure that was Celestia pulsed with gentle light, and Jake felt a sense of peace mixed with anticipation. But first, she continued, You must decide if this is a burden your species is willing to bear. For once you accept this responsibility, there is no going back. You would be committed to shepherding not just this universe but all the universes that come after it, for as long as consciousness exists. Jake looked around at his crew. They were all staring at him with a mixture of wonder and terror. The greatest decision in human history had fallen into their hands. Captain Jake Morrison stood in his private quarters, staring out at the impossible structure that was Celestia. 3 days had passed since she had shown them the history of failed species. 3 days of the hardest thinking any human had ever done. His crew was divided. Dr. Lisa Crawford believed humanity was ready for this responsibility. Commander Ryan Beck worried they would make the same mistakes as the species before them. Lieutenant Amy Foster wondered if they had the right to make such a choice for all humanity. A soft chime indicated someone at his door. "Come in." Dr. Crawford entered, carrying a data tablet filled with calculations. "Jake, I've been running the numbers. The knowledge Celestia is offering could solve every problem we face. Energy, disease, aging, even death itself. We could eliminate suffering throughout the universe. Or we could become like the Zinthari," Jake replied, "so focused on solving problems that we forget what makes life worth living." "But we've seen what makes us different," Lisa insisted. "We've maintained our humanity through every advancement we've made. Why would this be different?" Before Jake could answer, Commander Beck entered the quarters. His face showed deep concern. "Captain, I've been thinking about what Celestia said about other species failing. How do we know we won't become like the architects, so powerful that we stop caring about individual lives?" Jake had been asking himself the same question. "I don't know, Ryan, that's what scares me." Lieutenant Foster joined them, followed by Chief Engineer Pete Williams. Soon, most of the senior crew was gathered in Jake's small quarters, all grappling with the same impossible decision. "Maybe we should ask Celestia herself about our concerns," Amy suggested. They made their way to the bridge, where Celestia's presence could always be felt. As soon as they arrived, her voice filled the room. "You are troubled," she observed. "This is good. A species that accepted such responsibility without deep thought would not be worthy of it." "Celestia," Jake began, "how can you be sure we won't fail like the others? How do you know we won't become something we're not meant to be?" "I cannot be certain," she replied honestly. "But I have observed your species for thousands of years. I have watched you face your greatest challenges, and you have always found a way to grow without losing your essential nature." The space around them shimmered, and new visions appeared. These showed recent human history, the development of nuclear weapons and the choice not to destroy themselves, the exploration of space driven by curiosity rather than conquest, the gradual move toward cooperation instead of competition. Each time you gained new power, you also developed new wisdom, Celestia explained. When you learned to split the atom, you also learned to control that power. When you reached space, you carried with you your desire to explore and understand, not to conquer. Dr. Crawford spoke up. "But those were smaller steps. This is asking us to become something beyond human." "No," Celestia corrected gently. "This is asking you to become more human, not less. The essence of what makes your species special, your compassion, your curiosity, your drive to protect and nurture, these would not disappear. They would grow stronger." Pete Williams had been quiet, but now he stepped forward. "Celestia, you've been alone for eons. Doesn't that worry you? If we accept this role, will we become isolated like you?" "That is why I need successors," Celestia replied. "I have been alone because no species was ready to share this burden. But you would not be alone. You would have each other, and you would work together. The loneliness I have experienced would end for all of us." Jake felt the weight of the decision pressing down on him. This choice affects every human who will ever live. I can't make it for them. "Then don't," Celestia said simply. "Ask them." Amy looked up from her communications station. "Captain, Celestia has been enhancing our communications array. We can reach Earth and all the colonies instantly, regardless of distance." Jake's heart raced. The technology to communicate across the galaxy in real time would change everything. Even if they rejected Celestia's main offer. "Patch me through to Earth Command. All colonial governments and every human settlement you can reach," Jake ordered. Within minutes, representatives from across human space were connected to the starbound horizon. Jake found himself speaking to presidents, governors, scientists, and ordinary citizens from dozens of worlds. "This is Captain Morrison calling from the edge of known space," he began. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but I need you to listen carefully. For the next hour, Jake explained everything. He told them about Celestia, about the offer to become cosmic shepherds, and about the responsibility it would entail. He shared the visions of failed species and the promise of guiding the universe itself. The responses were immediate and overwhelming. From Earth's largest cities to the smallest frontier settlements, humanity began to debate the most important question in their history. Dr. Helen Murphy from Earth's Science Council spoke first. Captain Morrison, the implications are staggering. We're talking about evolution beyond anything we've imagined, but the knowledge alone could save billions of lives. Governor Robert Clark from the Mars colony was more cautious. How do we know this isn't some kind of test or trap? How can we trust a being we've never seen? Because she's already proven her good intentions, Jake replied. She could have destroyed us or controlled us at any time. Instead, she's asking for our consent and giving us the choice. As the debate continued, a pattern emerged. Humanity was not divided by fear or greed, but by genuine concern for doing the right thing. Some worried about the responsibility being too great, others worried about the consequences of refusing. But gradually a consensus began to form. Speaker after speaker voiced the same sentiment. If they could help reduce suffering and protect life throughout the universe, how could they refuse? The final voice came from an unexpected source, 10-year-old Katie Brown from a farming colony on the Outer Rim. Her mother had let her listen to the broadcast. "Mr. Captain," she said in her small voice, "my mom always taught me that if you can help someone and you don't, that's wrong. It sounds like a lot of people need help out there." The simple wisdom of a child crystallized what many adults had been struggling to express. Jake looked around at his crew, then spoke into the communications array. "I'm hearing a consensus from across human space. We understand the risks, but we also understand the opportunity to help on a scale we never imagined possible." President Sarah Martinez from Earth spoke for the United Government. "Captain Morrison, after consulting with our allies and citizens across human space, we authorize you to accept Celestia's offer on behalf of humanity. May God help us all." Jake turned to address Celestia directly. "We accept your offer. We'll try to be worthy of the trust you're placing in us." "I know you will," Celestia replied, and Jake could hear joy in her ancient voice. "Now, let us begin the greatest adventure in the history of consciousness itself." The space around them began to change as Celestia prepared to share the secrets of cosmic shepherding with humanity. Jake felt both terrified and excited. They were about to become something new, something unprecedented in the history of the universe. But at their core, they would remain human. And perhaps that was exactly what the universe needed. The transformation began gently, like the first light of dawn spreading across a sleeping world. Captain Jake Morrison felt it start as a warm sensation in his mind, then gradually spread throughout his entire being. Around him, his crew experienced the same phenomenon. "What's happening to us?" Dr. Lisa Crawford asked, though her voice carried wonder rather than fear. "You are learning to see the universe as it truly is," Celestia explained. Her voice now seemed to come from everywhere at once, not just from her structure but from the very fabric of space itself. "You are developing the ability to perceive the connections that bind all things together." Jake looked out at the stars and gasped. Where before he had seen distant points of light, he now saw living streams of energy connecting every celestial body. The universe was not empty space dotted with objects, but a vast web of relationships and influences. "I can see how the stars affect each other," Commander Ryan Beck said in amazement. "Every gravitational pull, every solar wind, every particle of cosmic dust, it's all connected." "Yes," Celestia confirmed. "This is the first lesson of cosmic shepherding. Nothing exists in isolation. Every action affects the whole. To guide the universe wisely, you must understand these connections." Lieutenant Amy Foster looked at her communications array with new eyes. "The signals I was picking up before, they weren't just random noise. They were conversations between the stars themselves." Chief Engineer Pete Williams called from the engine room. "Captain, I'm seeing how our ship really works now. It's not just metal and circuits. It's part of the energy flow of the universe itself. I can feel how to make it better, how to make it alive." The transformation continued over several days. Slowly, carefully, Celestia began teaching them the fundamental skills of cosmic shepherding. They learned to sense the health of star systems, to detect when a planet's orbit was becoming unstable, to feel the early signs of civilizations in distress. Your first lesson will be to help a young solar system stabilize, Celestia announced. Follow me. The starbound horizon moved through space in ways that defied their old understanding of physics. They traveled not just through distance, but through the underlying structure of reality itself. In what felt like moments, they arrived at a system where a new star was struggling to ignite properly. The star lacks sufficient mass to sustain fusion, Dr. Crawford observed. In a few million years it will collapse and any planets that might form will freeze. But we can help, Jake realized. He could somehow sense what the star needed. There's cosmic dust scattered throughout this region. If we could gather it and guide it into the star— Exactly, Celestia said with approval. You are beginning to think like shepherds. Working together, the crew learned to use their new abilities. They reached out with their minds and began gathering the scattered matter of space. It was delicate work that required patience and precision. Too much matter too quickly would destabilize the star. Too little would not solve the problem. But gradually they succeeded. The star grew brighter and more stable. Planets that had been forming in the system found better orbits. The foundations were laid for a solar system that could one day support life. How does it feel to help birth a solar system? Celestia asked. Incredible, Jake replied. But also humbling. We're dealing with forces that could create or destroy entire worlds. That is the essence of responsibility, Celestia agreed. Power without wisdom is dangerous. Wisdom without power is frustrating. But power guided by wisdom can nurture wonders beyond imagination. Over the following weeks, Jake and his crew learned more advanced techniques. They helped guide the evolution of a planet whose atmosphere was becoming toxic. They protected a developing civilization from a cosmic disaster. They even learned to communicate with species whose thoughts moved at different speeds than human consciousness. Each species we encounter teaches us something new, Dr. Crawford observed after their first contact with a collective intelligence that spanned an entire planet. We're not just helping them. They're helping us understand what consciousness can become. Meanwhile, reports began coming in from Earth and the human colonies. Across human space, people were experiencing the same transformation. Children born after the change seemed to naturally understand concepts that older humans had to learn. Scientists made breakthroughs in understanding physics and biology. Artists created works that captured the beauty of cosmic connections. But most importantly, humanity retained its essential character. People still fell in love, still told jokes, still worried about their families. The transformation had made them more capable, but it had not made them less human. I was afraid we would lose ourselves, Commander Beck admitted to Jake. But if anything, I feel more human than ever, like I'm finally living up to what humans were meant to be. Celestia had been watching their progress with growing satisfaction. You have exceeded my highest hopes, she told them. Other species that attempted this transformation either lost themselves in the power or were overwhelmed by the responsibility. You have found the balance. As months passed, Jake and his crew became true cosmic shepherds. They worked with Celestia to establish protective barriers around developing civilizations. They guided the formation of new star systems in regions where life could flourish. They even began teaching other advanced species to become shepherds themselves. The work is endless, Jake realized. There will always be new worlds to protect, new species to guide, new challenges to face. Yes, Celestia agreed. But that is what makes it meaningful. A job that could be finished would not be worthy of an eternal species. The greatest revelation came when Celestia shared her final secret. She showed them how universes were born, how they lived, and how they eventually died. More importantly, she taught them how the essence of a dying universe could be preserved and carried into a new one. When this universe grows old, she explained, you will help birth the next one. And in that universe you will find new species worthy of becoming shepherds. The cycle will continue forever, ensuring that consciousness and life never truly end. Jake stood at the edge of space, looking out at the cosmic web that connected all things. Beside him, Celestia appeared in a form more familiar to human eyes. Tall, graceful, with eyes that held the wisdom of eons. Are you ready for the final step? She asked. What final step? To become fully independent shepherds. I have taught you all I can. Now you must take full responsibility for this universe while I prepare to rest. Jake felt a moment of panic. You're leaving us? Not leaving, Celestia smiled. Joining. I will become part of the collective consciousness of cosmic shepherds, adding my knowledge to yours. For the first time in eons, I will not be alone. The transformation was beautiful and profound. Celestia's vast consciousness merged with the growing network of human shepherds. Her knowledge became their knowledge. Her wisdom became their wisdom. But more importantly, her isolation ended forever. Across the galaxy, humanity began its greatest work. They tended star nurseries and guided planet formation. They protected young civilizations and taught older ones to become shepherds themselves. They carried the essence of dying stars into new ones, ensuring that nothing valuable was ever truly lost. And in the deepest reaches of space, they began the delicate work of preparing for the birth of new universes. They would carry forward not just the knowledge and wisdom they had gained, but the essential human values of compassion, curiosity, and hope. Jake Morrison, now the first human cosmic shepherd, looked out at the universe he was sworn to protect. It was vast beyond comprehension, filled with challenges that would take forever to solve. But it was also beautiful beyond description, filled with life and consciousness and infinite possibility. We were always meant for this, he realized. Every step in human evolution, every advancement in our technology and wisdom, was preparing us for this moment. Behind him, the voice of humanity spoke in harmony with the voice of Celestia, now joined forever in the great work of shepherding existence itself. I was waiting, the combined consciousness said, and now you cradle my universe, and all the universes yet to come. In the cosmic web that connected all things, new patterns began to form, patterns of protection and growth, of wisdom and compassion. The universe had found its gardeners at last, and they would tend it with the care it deserved for all eternity. The greatest adventure in the history of consciousness had begun.